Greetings and welcome to In-Depth. I'm Dike Rostant. Signal Hill Alumni Choir is doing it big and keeping a year-long celebration of their 40th anniversary. Time now to speak with the man who has been at the helm of it for a great deal of time. Creative Director John Arnold. He joins us to share the rationale and itinerary. Thanks for joining us, sir. How you doing?
Not bad at all. Good evening. How are you doing?
I'm okay, thank you. But it seems as though we have known of Signal Hill Alumni Choir for so long. Let me fast into some of the reasons for the formation. Thanks. What's the original reason for saying, okay, let's do this?
Oh, yeah, that's a very interesting start. We started actually, I came out of UAE in 1981, and then I got a job at Signal Hill Secondary. In those days, it was actually a senior comprehensive. And in the year 1982, Music Festival was coming, and the first thing everybody asked, well, we need to get a choir going. And we had some students who were very successful in the Scarborough Junior Secondary, and they had come up. And Mr. Michael Duncan, along with some others, and myself, we all decided, you know what, let's see if we can get this choir going in Signal Hill. And then they were so successful in 1982 that in 1982, when the music festival was finished, we decided, you know what, we will keep the choir going and call it the Signal Hill Alumni. So by 1984, we had literally established the choir, and we now started to compete.
And it's one thing to say, okay, well, you have this choir and you have a name and you're making a name for yourself. What is that process like, scaling up, saying, okay, well, we want to do more as opposed to just music festival, which in and of itself is something, but saying, okay, well, we're trying to expand our horizons.
Yeah, well, I mean, I took over the mantle, complete leadership in 1993. And from then I had a vision about what the choir, we had to establish ourselves, for me, as one of the choral houses in Trinidad and Tobago. Trinidad and Tobago, by the way, has some of the best choirs in the Caribbean, Latin America region. I can tell you that. And I'm also doing work on that, working with some of the key choirs at this point for another research project, which allows me to see how all the choirs operate. But Signal Hill, we had to make some decisions. One was, what was the style we were going to adopt? And we made sure that earlier our repertoire had to consist of indigenous Trinidad and Tobago music. Folk must be a part of it, very strong statements. We wanted to do a lot of, as a diaspora out of Africa, we wanted to do a lot of African music. We also delve into jazz, anything Caribbean, reggae, salsa. We delved into those things, because those were the areas we thought we would have strength in. And the second thing we wanted to do, well, second out of three, the second thing was to record a lot. And we did that, I think to date, we have 7 albums. And the third one was to travel extensively to festivals all over the world.
And that's one of the things I wanted to ask about, because you don't get to be the recipient of a Hummingbird Medal Gold by doing the same thing that everybody else is doing. And that courage to be yourself while representing these different genres and saying, okay, well, this is the spin that we are putting on it. Is that something that was a vision from top down? Was it the entire group saying, okay, well, we need to do this and this is how we want to represent ourselves? What was that conversation like?
Yeah, that conversation was everybody, yeah? The choreographer who works with us now, and I mean, my study now is actually choreography. So the movements, we had a lady, Georgina Peter King. She has been working from the beginning to now. She's actually one of 2 of the original members. We fondly call it Judge. And we also have, I think, Maria Rodriguez, who was from the early days of Signal in 1984 to now. And what's striking is our style is not stand up and sing, neither do we use script. We always move and sing. So it's a mixture. It's not full show choir, which is plenty dancing all over the stage. But again, it's not also strict stand-up choir. It's a choir that moves, utilizes movements, gestures, pantomime, all in an effort to amplify what we sing. And so that became a style and also became, I would say, a model of how choirs can engage, how they can engage audiences, and how they can also present themselves. Lovely costuming, appropriate costuming, and movement and sound, oral and visual, became really a strong component of the Signal Hill brand.
And you're saying that, and I'm smiling, thinking about Professor Rex Nettleford explaining to someone at one point in time about the UE singers that the movement accentuates the sound. It's not the other way around.
Correct.
It's a choir.
Correct.
It's not a dance troupe. So let's put that hierarchy, but at the same time, there is that, like you said, that component that is important, because it's not as though you're just, okay, well, standing up and is dry that way. There's this level, or there are levels to this. But how significant was that decision that you wanted to record a great deal? And I say that in the context of the time.
Yeah, well, over the years, one of the things was building the repertoire. As a matter of fact, when I look back now, we have such a large repertoire. As you know, there's, even on YouTube, I'm following a book that I published years ago called Carry 'Em Go Long, 33 folk songs of Tobago. But you can actually hear every single one of those folk songs in a concert we did several years ago, and we actually put it up on YouTube. And actually, it is one of our most viewed videos because it's very interesting in terms of the songs that we have on that. And that has been a part of my interest. This thing about legacy that we have to leave. Dike, I will tell you this. The first time I went to Smithsonian and I got a CD called Peter Was a Fisherman, it was a CD from 1934 with Mr. Herskovitz, researcher, coming to Tobago, taking the songs, recording them, and the only accompaniment was bamboo and a cappella voices. And when you heard some of those songs, in those days, the song was Joseph Kiba. That has now morphed in all of the islands as Joseph Gibbon, all kinds of stuff. But what hit me was, imagine we are buying our own music. I am paying for the CD. And so that hurt me. And ever since, I've kind of dedicated my life to saying, we've got to put down some of this work, right? JDL, all of them left work, but we also have to carry on with that tradition of leaving legacy, passing on, passing on, passing on.
And that is something we're going to continue. I thought it was going to be the end of that answer, but we're going to continue when we return from this break. Stay with us. We are speaking with Creative Director of the Signal Hill Alumni Choir, John Arnold. We return after this. Welcome back. We are speaking with the Creative Director of the Signal Hill Alumni Choir, Mr. John Arnold. And we haven't even started speaking about the itinerary as yet, but I'm very happy that we're able to have this context and set it within a backdrop of what are some of the experiences that you've come up against. And looking at that way that the names, depending on who records, the names can change. how important is it that you have individuals with inside information saying this is what was happening at the time, this is why this accompaniment is being used, and just setting that stage so the story is told properly, because there are little things they can lose in the telling, little nuances. So how important is that to you? You who have spoken about putting on the work, setting the legacy, and making this your life's work.
So we have a team that works together. I am musical director, creative director, artistic director. So I usually come up with what are some of the programs that we can put on. What are some, for example, when we did Voices of Praise and Protest, which looked at the civil rights movement and the apartheid era and some of the music of that era, some years ago. Very, very popular production. But beyond that, Georgina works closely with me to make sure that she amplifies all the stories we're going to tell in song. The arrangements are made in such a way that it allows her the room to do the kind of things that will really catch audiences and make people really listen and get the story down to a child. And then we have Mr. Mackenzie Neve, who works in the costume area, where he creates the costumes. We tell him what we're looking for, and he becomes the creative director in terms of the costuming. All right, so we work together as a team. And what's beautiful is that I think because the decades have passed and we have many members who are there for several years, we get suggestions from the members themselves. So collectively, we work together as a complete team. And that's why this 2064 theme for our celebration is so important, a musical Odyssey, because part of this is really me at this point trying to make sure the work continues. How does the work continue? As people retire, they pass away, they move on and so on. The way you do that is that you have to now find those persons within the organization who can definitely take the baton and move it. And I must say, I think in our group, we have several persons very, very, very talented. And even the art of arranging, I've now started to teach that in such a way that people can now do it on their own. And that's where we're going to be going over the next few years, collaborating more with other people, other groups, doing more educational endeavors, something I'm really passionate about, doing more workshops. And I've done that all over the Caribbean. And now I'm doing workshops in the future now, soon in the USA. And I really want to be able to, right here at home, be able to do that. So those are important things for us.
And I'm very glad of those two things in terms of, one, there's this succession planning, because sometimes people grip things so tightly that when they go on, Dolly House mash up. And also being able to have those workshops at home, because it's one thing people appreciating you outside and say, yours, he's so fabulous, he's so wonderful. But when you reach home to share this knowledge, who he? And that's another story. But look.
Well, you know, prophets have no honor in their own territory. So I think that's an adage it's real, but you have to fight that because, you know, even though that happens, and we operate in environments that sometimes stymie the progress by celebrating mediocrity in other spheres. And so it really calls for continuous work and continuous discussions and discourse like what we're having here. Very important, because we really want our people, our people here, and the young people especially, to learn from what has gone before. 40 years is a long time, Dike. A lot has happened. We have persons who could talk about travel. We've been to several countries. We've heard several choirs from South Africa, Thailand, Australia, you name it. And we've been able to interact. We've been able to learn. And so some of those things can be passed on and certainly shared with other young people who must understand that it's not an elevator trip. You've got to take the steps.
And you say that a lot has happened in those 4 decades, which is why only taking a full year to celebrate. But we have about 3 minutes. So carry us through what are some of the things that have just gone and what are some of the things we can look forward. But start off by giving us the contact information where we can get more information to become more aware of it. Thank you.
All right, so I'll start by saying we're on Instagram and Facebook at Signal Hill Alumni Choir. My personal number is 7515027. But I think anybody who is on the social media, they can follow Signal Hill Alumni and they will get all the information as we unfold. We had the church service in March, and then we had a wonderful sports and family day, Corpus Christi, or the 31st of May. That was great. And then we moved to our exhibition, which we hope to launch sometime this month. But really and truly, the 3 mega things that are coming up would be the concerts on Saturday, I think the 22nd, of September at La Parima. And then we come into Port of Spain, Central Bank, 28th and 29th. And then we are at Tobago Shopper Complex on October the 6th. And we plan to feature, by the way, Dike, several of the choirs in the space. All those choirs that we've been collaborating with for years and the choirs that really are celebrating different times. For example, Marionettes is now on their 60th anniversary, right? We are just 40. Music Amateurs Tobago. We also have Love Movement, Lydians, Southerners. All the great choirs going to be part of the celebration. So as we come closer, we'll talk some more about all those shows, and certainly people can keep up pace with our social media pages.
All right, and we have a minute and a half. How important are the school caravan aspect of things?
Yes, how can I leave that out? So the school caravan, we have one in Tobago. Hopefully we haven't gotten the details in terms of the collaboration. We're waiting on some responses on that. But in Trinidad, we did get a good response from the Minister of Education, and her team is working with us. We're working to look at doing a beautiful workshop and concert where the students can come together in one location. So they're going to definitely, and some of those students are going to be pretty much laser picked for students in the performing arts, theater arts, and so on. But that's going to be on the 27th of September. We're really looking forward to that because I think it's so important for us to share with young people the experiences that we have had, the music, and why we play the music, why we perform the music, and also what does the music do for us therapeutically in terms of our belonging to a group, sense of belonging, the teamwork, Very, very important for life skills. Very important.
And I think sometimes people just see what's happening on stage and don't necessarily have a holistic view of all that encompasses leading up to that moment of implementation. But I will say that if I am not in the mood that I want to be, especially to do work, go onto YouTube or find the record, and when they hear them people start to sing la, 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 I'm not going to try to replicate it right now, but Christmas coming, yeah, that just summons up those energies. So being able to shift that mood is something that, you see, you didn't even understand with my piece. I think it's time for the conversation to done. But thank you very much, Mr. Arnold, and more power to you for the work that you all have done and the work that you'll continue to do.
I figured it was that you were aiming to say, you know. La 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 la. Yeah. So
I should have phrased it better.
That song you were talking
and I know better. And I know better. Yeah. I should have phrased it better. But thank you very much, sir. And on behalf of the entire,
and I hope we get to interact with some of that. You know.
Fingers crossed. And on behalf of the entire TTT News team, this has been In Depth with me, Dike Rostant. We've been speaking with Creative Director of the Signal Hill Alumni Choir, John Arnold. Thank you so much for joining us.